The Co-Brand Corporation, merchants of fine wines and champagnes, is pleased to present Trucs of the Trade, a video compendium of genuinely helpful tricks and tips from America's great chefs, together with genuinely helpful points on serving fine wine and champagne. All brought to you by the Co-Brand family of fine wines, who remind you that the truth for choosing a great wine is to read the label from the bottom up. And now let's get started with Vegetable Trucs Part 1, presented by Leaf Vineyard, makers of handcrafted, award-winning Cabernet blends.
Everyone knows that simple wooden chopsticks have 1,001 uses. Here's number 1,002. We use it as the secret behind our wonderfully popular Mala Szechuan cucumber fans at the restaurant. Here's how it's done, beginning with 2 chopsticks. Put the chopsticks down on the table like so, and make a V, securing the ends together at one end. Then put your cucumber in the center and holding the chopstick steady with the base of your hand and the cucumber steady with your fingertips. Use a sharp, thin-bladed knife to cut down along the vegetable. The beauty being that the chopsticks prevent the knife from going completely through the vegetable, and you wind up with a terrific, easy, quick fan. For those of you who are real fans of fans, you can do the same thing with radishes, zucchini, or carrots.
Here's a truc about tourneing, or peeling an artichoke. Our sous chef, Jamie Shannon, is going to demonstrate that. Make an even cut on the bottom, straight across the bottom of the artichoke. Peel off 2-3 leaves, and begin the tourneing or the peeling process with a very sharp paring knife, as Jamie's demonstrating. Work from the outer edge into the middle, never cutting into the meat or pulp of the artichoke. Again, from the outside to the middle, a straight cut across, midway in the top, finishes this truc. And there you have it, a perfectly tourneed or peeled artichoke.
Most of the people are worried about gender when they have their child. I worry about gender when I go shopping for my eggplants. Why? Well, there's a definite difference in the taste of eggplants. There is a male eggplant and there is a female eggplant. And the male eggplant has much less seeds and therefore is much less bitter. How can you tell the difference? Well, you look at where the flower stem or the flower came off with, and the male has a round and more even hole. Well, the female has an indented. Why don't we take a look? This is your male and this is your female. So when cooking eggplant, what's your gender?
I would like to show you a trick to solve the age-old problem of getting the avocado seed out from the avocado. I basically take the stem end off to give you a clean surface to work from, and then work the knife in and around the avocado so it makes a full circle. And then just gently twist the 2 halves, and the avocado should come clean apart. Then to get the seed out, holding it so that your fingers are not in the way, just hit it with the heel of a sharp knife and give it a real slight little turn, and the seed will come out of the avocado. Then you have the second problem is the seed is now stuck to the knife. And I think the best way to get it off, instead of reaching around for the avocado and endangering your hand with the blade, you just reach from behind the knife with your forefinger and thumb and just gently squeeze it, and the seed will come off the knife. So, the avocado, the seed, the age-old problem is solved.
The time-honored way for removing the skin from a tomato is quick and easy. First, remove the stem end. Make a gash on the other side and place into boiling water for 10 seconds. Remove from the water and place into a bowl of ice water. Let it cool, and with a sharp knife, peel the skin right off. You'll find that the tomato stays plump and firm and is perfect for slicing or dicing.
If you want a great potato salad, the best way to boil potatoes, have water boiling. To the boiling water, add coarse grained salt and then vinegar. The amount of the vinegar should be 1/3 of the amount of the water. Then to the boiling liquid, you add the potatoes, cut in the shape you want, and you boil the potatoes until cooked. This is the best way to boil potatoes because the vinegar will keep the potatoes from falling apart.
One of the condiments we use a lot in the Southwest is called pico de gallo. One of the problems with pico de gallo, if you concasse the tomatoes, is that they give up a lot of water. And as you can see here, when I put it on the plate, it's going to run. So one of the tricks I've learned to have a drier pico de gallo is to use only the flesh of the tomato with the peel, but not the seed, and dice it. Add that right to the bowl with the other ingredients. Put a spoonful on the plate. So for a nice clean presentation, always use just the flesh of the tomato.
Most Mexican recipes call for peppers to be roasted over an open flame. My trick is to do it by frying them. You first cut a little slit so it doesn't pop in your face. Put the chili in the hot oil. Let it go maybe 30 seconds until it turns beige. Let it cool. Peel under cold water, remove the seeds, and proceed to stuff.
One of the best summer vegetables you will get is fava bean. And fava bean is a very delicate vegetable, but it's a hassle to peel. And I have a little trick which I hope you will enjoy. First, you have to break the beans at the pods, like this, where it's quite fast and you can get good yield. Then you blanch the beans into boiling water for about 30 seconds. Ice them in cold water very quickly. Then with your nail, you just break here and push inside, and the skin will remain in your hand. Now that you know how to peel them, don't be afraid to buy them.
This is actually a very quick trick that I use all the time that you are in a kitchen with nothing around. If you have to use canned tomatoes for make any kind of sauce for pasta, instead of going around looking for a food processor or a blender, just put the canned tomatoes in a bowl. Take your hand, bare hand, put it inside and squeeze. It's quick and fun.
And speaking of fun, it's time now for Fruit Trucs. Everything you always wanted to know about juicing, peeling, seeding, poaching, grating, and serving, brought to you by Pavillon Blanc, the rare Sauvignon Blanc from Chateau Margaux.
This truc is on how to dry poach a pear in 500-degree salt. We'll start first by inserting a wooden skewer down into the pear to help you find the pear later and tell when it's done. We'll place it in a deep enough metal pan so that you can cover it with the salt. The salt has been preheated to 500 degrees. We'll just bury this pear in the salt and place it back in the oven. The dry poaching truc is terrific. It captures all the flavor within the skin of the pear.
In order to extract the most amount of liquid from any citrus fruit, take the fruit and roll it on a hard surface, then slice. The juicing is effortless. So for more juice with less effort, remember this truc.
If you ever come across a recipe that calls for a segmented fruit, such as an orange, lime, or lemon, the easiest way to peel it and remove the pith is to cut the ends off both sides. Turn it on one of its cut ends, and just cut down the sides of the oranges. And then with your knife, remove the segments. Why don't you give this trick a try? It's a lot easier than trying a spiral cut.
Pomegranates have been around for a long time, actually since biblical times, but we're just getting used to using them here in the States. And there's a few tricks you ought to know so that you can handle them properly. One is to take the pomegranate and break it in half under water. Why in water? Because very often the juice from the pomegranate seeds flies all over the room, and you've got that beautiful white tablecloth or that beautiful white rug, and the stain is hard to get out. Do it under water, and your problems are solved. What to do with them? Put them in stuffing, sprinkle them on salads, strain them and use them for juices. They're delicious. Sour, but delicious.
Now, the best way to get an orange or a lemon is to use an old-fashioned grater, parchment paper on top, and to grate. In this way, the lemon peel or the orange peel remains on top of the grate of the parchment paper, and what goes inside the grater is the white part of the lemon or the orange, which is very sour and bitter.
This is a trick I learned several years ago in Indonesia. It's how to cut and present a mango. I learned it in a restaurant in Bali. You take the mango and slice down past the seed in the center. Take the half a mango and score it at 3/4-inch intervals with a sharp paring knife. Do not cut through the rind. You turn the mango and cut it to make a diamond-shaped pattern. You take your fingers and turn it inside out to make a porcupine effect. And garnish this Balinese treat with a lime wedge.
And now that we know how to open a mango, let's visit with some members of the Co-Brand family who'll show us their favorite trucs for opening fine wines and champagne.
Here at Sequoia Grove, we often get questions on removing the corks from the wine bottle. One of the easiest methods that we have is the wine oso. It's much simpler than the corkscrew. It's easy to use. First of all, you take the long prong, insert it between the cork and the glass, start the second blade, rock it slowly down over the cork. Once you're down, grab the bottle, give it a slight twist to break the seal, and just slowly twist the cork out. It's very easy, no cork dust, and since there's no hole, you can reuse the cork.
This prong cork puller is a remarkable tool for getting corks out of wine bottles. I use them very often myself. They do have a tendency, however, if you use them improperly, to create what we refer to as a floater or a lot of trouble by pushing the cork inside the bottle. A lot of people would be in great despair at this moment because it's really difficult to get the wine out at this point, but there is a way. Let me show you. A rather common tool you find in most kitchens, a wooden spoon. Carefully and gently push the cork in to the extent you can start pouring out the wine. You'll get to a point where you can take the utensil out and literally freely pour the wine. You really, all of a sudden, now don't have a bottle to bring to the table. Again, don't despair. You can solve that problem by simply taking the carafe to the table, bringing the bottle to the table, and telling your guests that you've selected a wine that has extra body.
One of life's great pleasures is drinking a glass of fine champagne. But before you can drink the wine, you need to open the bottle. It's a very easy thing to do. Let me show you how. Start with a well-chilled bottle of champagne. Locate the wire tab just under the cork of the bottle. Pull the wire tab down. The wire tab sits on top of a pull tape that will make it easy to pull off the cap of the bottle. Pull the cap off just under the cork, and you're ready to start undoing the wire. Place your right thumb, if you're right-handed, on the top of the bottle and grab the neck of the bottle with your right hand. Tilt the bottle slightly away from you and nod at your guests and start to undo the wire. Hold the top firmly. You don't want to release that cork. When you've got the wire undone, pull it back a little bit on either side so that the muselet or the wire is free. Grab the cork and hold it firm, and now gently rotate the bottle. Not the cork, just rotate the bottle until you feel the cork release itself. Hold firmly onto the cork, and that puff means success. So remember, thumb on top of the cork, rotate the bottle, not the cork, and get ready to enjoy.
Thanks, gang, for showing us your trucs. But now, what do we do with all those corks? Well, stay tuned, because the answer's coming right up in Soup to Nuts Part 1, brought to you by Taylor Fladgate Vintage Porto, renowned for excellence since 1692.
To tenderize your meats, no matter if it's beef, lamb, veal, especially game, which have tendency to be tougher. It is very easy. Use a wine cork. The wine cork has enzymes which release into the pan and tenderize the meat. So place 1, 2, or 3 and proceed to cook it like normal. This will cook your dish in half of the amount of time. But don't forget to remove your cork just before serving.
Since every recipe you might use that calls for tomato paste calls for less than what's in a can, you have a lot of extra. What are you going to do with it? Take a little tray for your ice cubes, take it by the tablespoonful, plop a spoonful in to each separate cube tray. Freeze up the cube, turn the cubes out, put it in a tight plastic bag. It'll store in your freezer for a couple of months. When you have a recipe that calls for 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, you know where to get it.
Every cookbook will tell you that the best way to remove the skins from hazelnuts is to roast them in an oven and then rub them in a towel. Well, my method is to first mist them with some water, bake them in a preheated 400-degree oven for about 5 minutes. This little bit of water creates steam, making the skins fall off the nuts. This is a great trick you can use.
Now here's the way how we do the creme brulee fleur-de-lis. We have the creme brulee. I'm laying some sautéed apples right on top, and I sprinkle those apples with fine sugar, just like that. And then to get the nice brown color, of course, here at the restaurant, we would use the salamander, who is a very heavy-duty grill. But if you want to do that same recipe at home, now here comes the trick. You take a torch, and you will see you will get a nice brown caramel color, exactly the same way that if I would use a very sophisticated piece of equipment right here. And you see it turns very, very quickly in nice golden brown color. And there we have it, the trick with the torch.
For anyone that's tried to roll a taco or a flauta with a commercially made tortilla, you know it's almost impossible. They crack. So my trick is to put the tortillas in a plastic bag and soften them in the microwave for about 30 seconds and roll. So try this trick and let the microwave help you in Mexican cooking.
So you don't splash yourself with hot grease when you're either sauteing or pan frying. Always put the fish or whatever meat you're sauteing into the fat away from you and letting it go away from you, so if it splashes, it goes in that direction rather than onto your hands. And you need to turn your piece of fish or meat over, tilt your pan so that all the butter runs to one end, and then turn it over into a dry pan and put your butter back. You'll be much safer. So the next time you're frying, remember this trick and don't get burned.
If you're making a creme anglaise and all of a sudden you forget how long it's on the fire and it comes out looking like this, a curdled mess, all is not lost. Take your sauce, pour it into a blender, give it a quick jolt, 2 seconds, and it's safe.
Today I'm going to show you a very simple technique to make any kind of sauce. First of all, you always use a good wine. Put the wine in a pot, bring it to a bowl, and flambe the wine to remove the acidity and the alcohol on the wine. And add a little sugar to bring back the sweetness. But now remember these 3 easy tricks when you make a good wine sauce.
This trick is on how to handle white chocolate just like pasta. First of all, you temper the chocolate by leaving it out at room temperature, 72 degrees, until it's malleable underneath the pressure of your finger. After that point, take it out, roll it gently to flatten it so that it can easily be put into your pasta machine. Run it through, starting at the whitest setting on your pasta machine, gradually reducing down until it's thinner and thinner, and obviously gets longer and longer. You can take it down to just about the last setting and still keep it very malleable. It's pretty unsensitive to being rolled out. Once you get it into this form, you can mold it into any fun shape, such as this white chocolate ravioli or lasagna or any other shape your creativity demands.
And now I'm going to show you a little trick to turn mushroom. You need a nice mushroom, very hard, very solid. A sharp knife. You put the sharp knife in the middle of the mushroom and you just turn both hands at the same time until you went all around. Of course, after a few years, when you have some experience, you can go faster, faster, and faster. Seems very difficult to do, but in fact, it's so easy.
Another technique we use at the River Cafe for garnish is a potato wafer. We bake them on a very hot, custom-made copper pipe. We use them in several ways. One example is this caviar parfait you see in front of you. The method is simply slicing a potato on a mandolin very thinly and soaking it in either flavored oil or clarified butter and simply laying them on the pipe. They'll adhere to the pipe when it's very hot, and they take approximately 5 to 7 minutes to bake at about 350 degrees. When the potatoes are ready, they should slide easily off the pipe, and you'll have a beautiful garnish such as this.
If for some reason your sauce is too salty, you take a sugar cubes and you rub the surface and zigzag for 3-4 times, and this way you take some of the salt.
Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a sausage without casing, because I know when you find recipes on some cookbooks, and they say you need casing, you can't find casing. I'm using now saran paper. You stick the meat inside of the paper, the plastic paper, you roll it, you make it tight, you roll it, and right there you have a sausage. See, a nice little sausage, you blanch it for a few minutes, and voila.
Voila, indeed. And now let's visit with 4 French chefs who'll show us trucs you can do with eggs, including the perfect omelet, presented by Bellini Chardonnay, considered one of the world's great value wines.
Now, we all know how difficult it is to recognize a hard-boiled egg from a fresh egg, especially if they get mixed up in your refrigerator. Now, here's the trick. The hard-boiled egg, you will see, twists, and the fresh egg doesn't. Now, you tell me, which is which?
Here you have some quail eggs. To crack a quail egg is very difficult. I got just a little trick to show you how to crack a quail egg. Here is the pointed side of the quail egg. Here is the flat side. You open by the flat side. You take a little knife, and with the tip of the knife, you just open it. Around the egg like that. And you have a beautiful whole quail egg. Remember this trick next time when you have to open a quail egg. Thank you.
Let me show you a trick with an egg. This is one of the most famous dishes of Le Pavillon, the brandade of sole on the eggshell. A lot of our customers asking us, how do you do to cut a shell so perfectly? What you do is take a serrate knife here, a 3/4 of the high here, and there it is, the perfectly cut eggs.
Well, we go to do an omelette. An omelette is also a very simple thing, but there are a few little tricks which you have to know. The first tip to make a perfect omelette is to beat the eggs very well. You take 3 eggs, and you beat them very, very well. If they are not well beaten, you have little white spots in. Now the second tip is not to add salt right away. You put the salt in, your egg, they break a little bit and cannot make a good omelette. So you beat them well, and when they are well beaten, like that about, then only you put your salt in. If your pan is not clean, you never do a good omelette. The eggs, they stick on the pan. So if you're not sure it's clean, you can put a little salt, coarse salt in, and you clean it like that, see? Not too much butter in. Heat it a little bit. And here we go. Now, don't overcook your eggs. If your eggs are overcooked, your omelette is rubbery. And then you just fold it in like that. Tap it a little bit. You bring it to the edge and just flip it over. And here you have a perfect omelette, a cigar shape. That's it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's turn now to our wine experts who will show us how to store and pour and pour.
A common problem we're frequently faced with is what do you do with a half a bottle of unfinished wine? We recommend that you pour the wine into a smaller bottle for use at a later date. This prevents the wine from oxidizing as it would in a larger bottle. Now we're ready for the cork. Here's a little tip. Turn the cork over and use the small end.
When you're going to open a very fine bottle of old vintage port or old Burgundy or old Bordeaux, you need to decant the wine because there is sediment. It's a very simple way to do it. You take a candle, a crystal decanter, and this is what you do. Hold the decanter in front of the candlelight and we start pouring very easy. As soon as you first see the first trace of sediment, you stop the process and you have the perfect clear wine in the decanter and all the sediment in the bottle. This is le petit truc en decanting.
Here's a method for helping you pour wine dribble-free. It's all in the wrist. Watch. Pour. As you lift the bottle, twist. This way you get the wine in the glass rather than on the tablecloth.
Gamay Beaujolais wines from California's Napa Valley and France's Beaujolais region are highly popular and versatile wines. However, there's a controversy over the proper serving temperature of these wines. We think it's a personal decision. I, for example, like to serve my Gamay Beaujolais at cellar temperature for foods that normally require a red wine, such as veal Normandie or pasta. For foods that normally require a white wine, such as seafood, or if I wanted to use Gamay Beaujolais as an aperitif, I like to serve mine chilled. Our winery is regarded as America's leading producer of Gamay Beaujolais wines. When it comes to serving temperatures, I recommend you experiment for yourself.
Thank you, Chuck. And now it's time for Vegetables Part 2, presented by St. Francis Vineyard, critically acclaimed for its outstanding Chardonnay and Merlot.
If you cook a lot of shell beans like we do, you probably notice that sometimes they come out really creamy, and then sometimes no matter what you do, they stay kind of hard and they stay really separate. And maybe that's what you want, is for them to be separate. Well, what we figured out is that if you cook them with a lid on, they tend to come out creamy. If you cook them uncovered, they tend to come out more distinct. I cooked a lot of beans before I figured it out, but the trick is in the lid.
Peeled, seeded, and chopped tomatoes. How many times have you seen that in a recipe? Well, here's my way of doing it. I take a very thin-bladed knife, peel tomato. I start about an inch below and make a curve around, producing a petal. Flip out the seeds and continue in the same manner all the way around. And then cutting into any size dice that you wish. There you have it. Next time you see peeled, seeded, and chopped, you've got it made.
Hello, Southwest chili lovers. Here's the real scoop on dried chilies. These are ancho chilies here, and the process of cleaning these ancho chilies can be pertained to any of the dried chilies from the Southwest or Mexico. To clean this ancho chili, we remove the stem, which just pull it off, split the chili in half, and remove the seeds. Okay, so now we have this ancho chili that's clean that you can fry, you can put in the oven, you can put in a chili or a stew. But, as all great chili makers will tell you, you need to start with a clean chili.
When you cook some vegetable like cabbage, cauliflower, leeks, artichoke, in your apartment and your house, you know, I smell a lot in the kitchen. And the way you keep that off, just put some piece of bread when the water is boiled, and you put the bread like that inside, and you know the bread keep all the smell, and you don't bother your neighbor.
Fresh fennel is a very sweet vegetable, but if you like to have it in salad, there is a trick to do to be sure you don't peel the string of the fennel. The fennel is made of a lot of string inside. For that, you cut the fennel like this. You can slice it very thinly with a knife this way, or you can use a mandolin, or if you use an electric slicer, it's even better. I'll show you. Here's the fennel cut paper thin, and you can use it in a carpaccio of salmon like this. And if you don't have an electric slicer at home, you can always go around the block to your local butcher and ask him to slice the fennel for you.
Carrots are very sweet, but most of the times, when we are plain boiled carrots, we have no taste at all. If you boil the carrots in salted boiled water, and you leave the skin on, the result is completely different. And then you remove the skin in cold water, the skin comes out very well, and the taste will be completely different. In this way, even plain boiled carrots are very good and very sweet.
The best way to control the spice of a chili is to remove the stem and the seeds. And a simple trick for that is to first cut the stem base off and stand the chili up on end, and then cut little slices from the edge of the chili. What you end up with is just the meat of the chili with all the spice in one piece in the core. And there you have it. This truc removes the fierce spice from the chili.
There are so many lettuces in the market. I want to show you 3 of them and how you handle them. Radicchio, Boston, oak leaf. But radicchio is probably the most fun. It gets rid of all your frustrations with a simple core out. Move on to the Boston. You can relax a little bit with this one. And then into the oak leaf with just a simple twist. Bitter greens. So that's 3 trucs for 3 lettuces. Use your hands on these. Use your fingers. Don't use your knife. It's going to oxidize them.
This truc is on how to peel an artichoke fast and efficiently without peeling all the leaves off. First of all, you place it down, cut it in half, and then quarter it. After you've cut it into a quarter, you take your knife, cut down through at the top of the purple choke gently until your knife stops. At that point, gently peel the artichoke away from the leaves. This leaves the pure artichoke and all the tough fibrous leaves down at the bottom. To remove the choke, cut in slightly with the knife, and the choke will pop right out. And here you have the clean artichoke, quick, fast, and efficient. What a truc.
What a truckster. Thank you, Jimmy. And now get ready for our sweetest section, Pastry and Baking Truc, brought to you by the Charles Shaw Winery, the leading producer of American Beaujolais.
This is one of my absolute favorite trucs that I call instant chocolate decorations. I start with a heavy-duty, and it must be heavy-duty, zip-sealed bag, and little mini morsels or chocolate chips. That way they melt faster, and they're the right thickness for piping. Ordinary chocolate tends to be a bit thin. I zip it closed, and then place it in a bowl of hot water, just hot from the tap. You don't have to boil it. After about 5 minutes, it becomes totally melted. And then you can use the zip-seal bag as a piping bag to decorate. And when you're piping chocolate, you never use a metal tip because it hardens in the tip. That's why the plastic bag is so perfect. Start with a very small cut. You can always make it larger. And then you can pipe either right onto the plate, writing messages, or directly onto a cake. And this can be done right before serving. It only takes a couple of seconds. And there you have an instant chocolate decoration.
Here's a way to make a perfectly shaped pie shell. Start with 2 pie pans that are metal and the same size. Line one plate with your favorite pastry dough. Chill it until it's firm to the touch. Place the other pan on top. And normally we would bake it in the oven this way. But unfortunately what happens is that the dough will slide down. If we invert it and bake it upside down, gravity works in our favor and we will attain the wonderful shape of the shell. You'll be able to tell when the crust is done because it will be perfectly golden brown on the edge.
Here's a little trick that I really like for lining a cake pan. What I do is very simple. I take parchment paper, fold the paper in half, okay, then again in half. You shape it into a triangle, and now you make a cone shape, okay? When you have your cone, you turn the cake pan upside down. You measure from the very center to the edge of the pan, and there you cut the paper right at the very edge. And look, you now have a circle that will fit the pan perfectly. So there you go, and now your cake pan is lined with parchment paper.
I have a great trick I discovered when baking cupcakes. We bake them in a cup. What we do is take a nice heavy porcelain cup, butter it first, then flour it, put it about 2/3 of the way filled with batter. We use a chocolate cake batter. It bakes in an oven at about 325 or 350. What happens is the heat enters the cup and it kind of insulates the batter so it cooks real evenly. It's moist all the way through. After we bake the cake and let it cool, we just drop it out of the cup. So for a nice moist cupcake, use a cup.
Here is a trick to make chocolate ribbon for decorating a cake like we do at Le Cyr. And for this trick, must be use cellophane like this, but not saran wrap. Okay, you put the cellophane in the cold table and take regular chocolate with a brush and brush the cellophane. You cut some small pieces of cellophane. Take the cellophane delicately and just close like this. When the chocolate is set, peel the cellophane and you have a pieces of chocolate mold, and with this you can form a ribbon.
Now here's a trick my mother never taught me, because my mother was a dentist and she never would have thought to use dental floss in such an unorthodox way. Once you cut a cheesecake using dental floss, you'll never cut it any other way again. You simply take a piece of dental floss, and it can even be mint flavored. It might add a bit of taste to the cheesecake. Hold it taut and put it right on the surface, and it goes straight down through the cake. You can hardly see the line that it makes. Pull it out and just continue cutting in the same way. What a way to cut a cheesecake.
Here's a technique to prevent a pastry bag from leaking while you're filling it. Press the tip into the end of the bag, twist the bag, forming a knot, press the knot into the tip, and now we're ready to go without the cream falling onto the counter or my shoes.
You know, when you make puff paste, you have to do the dough, put it in the refrigerator, take it out, give it a roll, fold it, put it in the refrigerator again, and when I want to roll it, like now, out of the refrigerator, it's quite hard, and it's difficult to roll. Now this, if you bang the dough like that, making a ridge into that dough,
and it's much easier all of a sudden to roll. And just that little trick will take you half of the time to roll the dough if you do it with this.
Here's a little trick for doing praline, or actually for taking praline off the sheet. What I do is rather than put it onto the cookie sheet, you see when it doesn't come off, so what I do instead is I pour it onto foil, and look what happens. The praline comes right off, and of course now you have the perfect brittle, and break it up, put it in the food processor, and you have the perfect praline powder for use for a lot of wonderful things, cakes, etc., whatever you want.
This is a trick to use when you make something in a parchment paper and the parchment paper stick at the cake. It's always difficult to take out this parchment paper. You can take some hot water and put the hot water in the parchment paper like this and just wait 10-20 seconds and peel. With this trick, the paper come out easier and in one piece.
Here's a great way to pipe whipped cream or buttercream onto a cake without having to use a pastry bag. You take a zip seal type of bag, which is heavy duty, that's important, and you cut a corner and try to cut it on a curve so that the frosting doesn't leak out the sides when you put your tip on. And then using a neoprene standard coupler, which is 2 parts, this will enable you to change the different types of tubes you use, or even to keep the tube from slipping back into the bag. Just force it forward a little, then choose the tube or tip that you want, place it on, and screw the little ring which keeps it in place. Now no frosting can come out the sides at all. And the best part is that once it's filled, you can zip it closed and nothing can come out the top. So when you're piping, it all goes out the front where it's designed. And here's your perfect disposable pastry bag.
And now, dear friends, if you've got a heavy vinaigrette, lumpy polenta, and you just don't know what to do with a rubber glove, then stay tuned for Soup to Nuts Part 2, presented by Champagne Taittinger, known throughout the world for its elegant and delicate Chardonnay flavors.
So here we've got the Michael Jackson trick. One glove, a surgical glove, borrowed from your dentist, bought at the drugstore. Put on your hand, will protect you when you're slicing a fresh chili. Or if you're wanting some traction and opening a jar lid, it makes it a snap. How's that, Michael Jackson, for one more thing you can do with a glove?
Cooking rice at home seems to be the most difficult thing for people to do. An easy way around that is not to follow directions on the box. Begin with a little oil in your pot, add your rice, and over low heat, stir the rice to coat it with the oil. This keeps the kernels separate and stops them from sticking while cooking. Add an equal quantity of water, 1 cup to 1 cup or 2 cups to 2 cups. Bring your rice to the boil. Cover, simmer for 10 minutes over low heat, then remove from the heat with the cover on and let set for 15 minutes. And there you have it, foolproof rice every time.
I've been eating polenta ever since I was a little girl and cooking it ever since I was big enough to reach the pot. The essence in polenta is that it is well cooked and that it is homogenized and without lumps. One of the ways to sort of a truck, if you will, of the trade, that is to prevent the lumps, is to introduce the polenta in cold water versus hot. You mix well the polenta in the cold water, the water having some salt and bay leaves, and then you introduce the heat. Using cold water will assure no lumps in your polenta.
Here's a technique that professionals use to properly cool stocks and soups. After preparing a stock, and I've done a chicken stock here, we're going to take it, rather than putting it out on a counter or directly into your refrigerator, we'll put this container into an ice water bath. I have one set up here in a little pan, simply ice and water, putting the container of stock directly into it and stirring it occasionally. The stock will cool rapidly in this fashion, then we'll be able to refrigerate it and not worry about the stock spoiling.
You know, when I have guests at home, I like to serve butter next to each plate in those little containers. They look nice. And you use smooth the top out. You can keep that in your refrigerator with a piece of plastic wrap. It doesn't pick up any taste. You can even decorate it with the point of a fork. Here it looks nice. Or put a couple of leaves of watercress. But for special party, I know I go one step further, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. To make a rose or a flower with the butter, you scrape it like this until you have a strip of butter at the point of the knife. Then you roll it on itself and pull it out. This we are going to put on top of our butter. Now we need something for the center. Again, the same idea. And now I roll it tighter, as you can see here, just to make the heart of the flowers and put it in the center of it. Often I put those butter flowers in ice water, and they get very hard. So you can grab them with your hand, put a bit of paprika on a plate, and roll the edge in paprika for a beautiful design. It's really going to impress your guests.
I have a great trick. Whenever you're cooking by the stove, you want to keep a whip handy, because at any moment you might have a pot boiling over. And before you move the pot, you want to just knock down the bubbles with your whip, and then you can move it to safety without spilling and dirtying up the stove.
Here's a trick to turn any sauce that you may have, chicken or duck, into a quick, enjoyable consommé. You heat the sauce very warm on a stove to a boiling point, and for each 4 ounces of sauce, it's 1 egg white. And since the sauce is very hot, and we're going to clarify this very quickly, it's foolproof. Put some ice, about 4 cubes to each egg white. Mix it all together with some mirepoix herbs, whatever you like. Whisk it in very quickly. Stir your egg whites into your sauce over very high heat for about 4 to 5 minutes. Let it rest for 2 minutes. Strain it, and you have a beautiful consommé.
Bruschetta, it's what in this country is known as a garlic bread, but it's not quite the same thing. What we do in Tuscany, we take a slice of crusty peasant bread, and we use the whole clove of garlic, and we use on a thin slice of crust bread to brush the edges of the bread with the garlic. And once you already brush the slice of bread with garlic, you can top them with diced tomatoes, with potato mushrooms, or just olive oil, salt, and pepper.
If you find yourself alone needing to make a mayonnaise or a vinaigrette, and you don't have the assistance that I have in my kitchen to help you hold a whisk or a bowl, here's an age-old trick that we chefs have used for centuries. Take a bowl and a wet towel, wrap the towel into a tight ring, and put it around the bottom of the bowl. Steady the bowl, and then you have one hand free to pour and one hand free to whisk, and the bowl stays nice and steady. It's a trick of the trade.
I'm going to show you how to make vinaigrettes, any kind of vinaigrettes, much lighter. We're going to put the acidity on the oil in a food processor or by hand, and we're going to add 2-3 spoons of boiling water to make it much more light. There we go. So light.
A lot of time we have problems to cut the terrines, especially the vegetables and fish terrines, which are more fragile. I have a small trick which means to unmold the terrine completely, to wrap in an aluminum foil, and to cut through the aluminum foil. So I take the end of the terrine, and now you cut through the foil. The terrine doesn't move, and you remove the paper around the terrine. It's very easy, and it can earn you a lot of time.
When rice has a slightly burned, I'm going to show you how to get away of that smoky, unpleasant taste or odor. First of all, transfer your rice to a clean pan. All right, don't take out the bottom. And then place some onion skins right on top of the rice and cover it until ready to serve for 10-15 minutes. This will take all that unpleasant smokiness out of your rice and will be as perfect rice like a nasi can happen.
Here's a little trick with sparkling beverages, whether it's beer or champagne. You have to realize that any soapy residue left in your glass is going to still out your sparkling wine. It's going to do the same thing to your beer or your champagne. So take a second to examine the glass, make sure it's wiped out clean. By the way, here's the final truc. Whenever you're pouring any kind of wine, show your guests the label. You're pouring quality.
Pouring quality means the right wine at the right temperature in the right glass. Wine Trucs Part 3.
We do a lot of entertaining at Leith Winery, and we always have a variety of glasses on the table. The most frequently asked question is, why do we have so many glasses on the table for so few wines? Let me explain. We use this glass for Red Bordeaux, for California Cabernet Sauvignon, both very heavy, very intense wines, rich in flavor, rich in smells. As you can see, this glass has a wider portion at the bottom, in fact, a goblet. We use this to put our hands around to warm the wine, we use it to swirl, we use it to do all of those things that is necessary to get the smells and flavors out of a very intense red wine. On the other hand, this glass is used for red Burgundy, for California Pinot Noir. A lot lighter in style, a lot lighter in color, a lot lighter in flavors and smells. Doesn't really demand that it have such a wide bottom. Doesn't really demand that it have an ability to hold. It really is a lighter style wine and hence a much more delicate wine. Hence a much more delicate glass. And that is the reason why we have both of these glasses.
Champagne should be served at the coolest temperature of all wines, usually 44 to 42 degrees. There are a couple of ways to get your bottle chilled down to that temperature. About an hour in the refrigerator will do it, or alternatively, you can use an ice bath. There are two crucial ingredients to an ice bath. One, of course, is the ice, but equally important is water. The water makes the contact between the ice and the bottle most efficient. But we've all been caught with just not quite enough time before the company arrives. The trick for that, add 2 to 4 tablespoons of salt to the ice bath. And voila, within 20 minutes, you're enjoying your ice-cold champagne.
And now, garlic, onions, ginger, and herbs, brought to you by Sequoia Grove Winery, whose Cabernet has been rated as America's best.
You have a recipe that calls for a peeled clove of garlic. You have your head of garlic. Take the heel of your hand against the root of the garlic. With a thrust, you get the garlic cloves to separate. Now you need to get rid of the peel. Take the clove, put it on a flat side. A wide French knife or a cleaver will do. Put it up here, smash it. The peel comes right off. Here you have your peeled clove of garlic, thereby saving your manicure and yourself from not smelling like the head of garlic when your company arrives.
One of the most important things in our kitchen is showing people how to do a fine dice of onions. The key is that you want to do the onion with the least amount of cuts possible so you don't end up releasing a lot of the water in the onion. So you cut it through the core so that you keep the core in place, and then make fine vertical cuts. And then horizontal strokes, cutting it not into your hand, keeping your hand flat on top. You then make a fine cut. What you end up then with is a fine dice of onion, which helps when you're going to caramelize the onion, you don't have water release. Also when you're cutting, it helps you not to have tears because there hasn't been as much of the juices released from the onion.
You know, being French, I love garlic. My wife doesn't like it. She doesn't want to kiss me. But we find a way to cook and eat garlic without the bad taste. You have to remove the germ from the garlic. In the water, you cook for 5 minutes. After that, you can use the garlic any way you want and kiss your wife.
We use 30 30 pounds of fresh ginger every day at China Moon, so you bet we better have a good, easy way to peel it. Here's how. You break off a knob, you trim it down to an easy geometric shape. And there you are, ready to go. One beautifully peeled, workable hunk of fresh ginger.
It's a nice way to put a little touch of garlic on your vinaigrette. Take a fork, take a piece of garlic, and you rub the garlic on top of the fork, just a little bit like this. Since my father told me this trick, when I make my vinaigrette, I call vinaigrette à la Gilles.
Have you ever wished you could get rid of that strong onion flavor from a good fresh tomato salsa? Well, my trick for that is to place finely chopped onions in a strainer and then rinse them off with acidulated water, which is water with a little bit of vinegar added to it. Shake them to drain them well. I think you'll be amazed at the sweet freshness of these raw onions.
One of the things I want to show you today is how to puree garlic without having to use a garlic press, so you don't have to clean it with a toothpick at the end of the day. What we do is take a clove of garlic, cut it in half, and again, as you do an onion, you make slices, vertical, horizontal, and then just a rough chop. And then take a little bit of salt, which will act as an abrasive. Put it on the garlic, then with your knife flash, you mash the garlic, forming a paste, using that salt to help to make it into a smooth paste very quickly. And here you can see in just 30 seconds, you've got garlic puree without any of the mess of a garlic press.
Oh, I love the smell of sweet basil. And you know, it's very difficult to have sweet basil all year long. This is a good way to have sweet basil all the time. You remove the lid, you fill a Pyrex olive oil, close it well, and you keep it in the refrigerator. This way you have sweet basil all year long. Bon appetit.
And now, dear friends, get set for the main course. Trucs with meat, fish, and chicken, presented by Maison Louis Jadot, craftsman of collector's burgundies.
Now we all know, of course, the traditional way how to bone salmon. Usually it's done from the back right here. Now the trick I will show you, just flip around the salmon and you will see I will bone the salmon very quickly, just in a matter of a minute. You see, you just put your knife right in there, you follow the bone, just like that, and you see a second, and here we have the fillet of salmon.
Here's the way to make the perfect hamburger. This is a recipe that I developed for the 21 Club. You want to take very freshly ground meat with a little bit of fat in it. The fat ensures that it will stay juicy and moist on the grill. You want to season it very lightly with salt and pepper. Form it into a patty. You want to handle the meat as little as possible so the taste stay very pure. And then we're going to take a piece of frozen herb butter. It's just made with parsley and a little bit of shallots, and stick it right inside. What this will do will keep the inside cold and rare, and you'll have an extra dollop of flavor in the burger as well. And there you have it, the perfect hamburger.
Our trick today is 3 easy steps to clean soft-shell crabs. My trusty right hand, Jamie Shannon, our sous chef, is going to demonstrate that. First step is remove the eyes simply by just pinching them. It's demonstrated. The second is the lungs, removing the lungs, and then the apron. What they call the apron, the back of the crab is demonstrated. And there you have the 3 easy steps to clean soft-shell crabs. Now after these 3 easy steps, the whole crab is edible.
One of the popular dishes here at Oriole is the tuna carpaccio, which I'm going to show you how we pound the tuna, which is here is yellowfin. And through a piece of saran wrap, we lay it down on a little bit of olive oil on the saran wrap, lay the tuna down, fold the top layer over. Then we begin pounding from the center out to spread the tuna. Turning it every 2 or 3 seconds. Kind of stretching it. So there you have it, a piece of tuna, very thin, very attractive, and very tasty.
Almost everybody loves oysters, but a lot of people are intimidated by opening them. Let me give you a few simple tips. First of all, it's a live animal. Treat it gently and calmly. Don't bang them around. Wash them before you're going to open them so they're nice and relaxed when it comes time to open them. Opening is a matter of leverage, not brute strength. First of all, put the oyster on the table, not in the air where the knife could slip and go through your hand. And use a rag to keep it steady and keep your hand out of the way of the force of the knife. Insert the knife where the oyster comes to a tip at the top of the oyster and twist it like you would a motorcycle throttle. And it should pop right open very easily. There's a little muscle right here. Slip the knife along the top, cut that muscle, and you have a beautiful, perfectly shucked oyster. So that's how you open an oyster. Try it.
It's a trick for make a quick home smoker. If you want to make some sea scallop smoking on or shrimp, you can use some dry thyme. You put in the coal pot. You put on the bottom. After you put some green thyme, put some fire. Okay, the smoke is coming. You put the sea scallop. And you keep like that for half an hour. Later, when you cook the sea scallop, you have a great smoky taste.
My favorite thing about birds is that they come in their own basting bags, a natural skin that keeps them moist during roasting. But sometimes the basting bag, their skin, dries out or cracks or burns, and I have found a way of solving this problem. Prepare your chicken for roasting as you normally would. But before you place it in the oven, take a cheesecloth, douse it with some oil. I use olive oil or chicken fat because it has flavor. And lay it over the chicken. After roasting, your bird is going to be beautifully browned and still moist. This trick is particularly useful with larger birds like capons and turkeys, or even with the chicken that you've stuffed.
The other trick to take out the bone of the fish with a vegetable peeler. Let me show you. Very quick, very simple. Try it.
I'm going to show you a trick how to make a perfect round carpaccio. 2 layers of smoked salmon with coriander underneath. Now you add it as a piece of seal wrap paper here over it, oil, the back of a spoon, press nicely. Second plate now, put on top, press a little bit. Twist. This is your carpaccio.
Here's a classic New Orleans troupe from Jamie and me to you. A classic paupiette. Parchment paper, heavy butcher's paper preferred. As such, you can even use aluminum foil. We prefer a heavy butcher's paper. Square sheet with a house scissors, making a half circle cut to get you designed for the paupiette method. Here we go. First step, we want to apply moisture as Jamie demonstrates with either butter or you can use olive oil. This is going to contain the moisture, the steam begins the paupiette process. Secondly, we're doing a classic New Orleans pompano and paupiette. We have a filet of pompano, Creole seasons, fresh vegetables, and then we begin the truc. the papillette method. It's the fold or the roll. Nice even crease, one roll over, one fold, another fold over. As Jamie demonstrates, fold over fold in the circular motion, making the in papillette method. We take the papillette and the fold side down on the plate into the oven for the papillette technique. A classic New Orleans truc when it comes out of the oven. Pompano and papillette.
When you cook a lobster tail, normally the tail curls. I'm going to show you a trick to keep the tail flat. Take a skewer by the back of the lobster and run the skewer through the tail. And here we have lobster on a stick.
Now let me briefly show you how to shell a lobster claw. You just break it off, like I do. Pick up that, just twist it very slowly, and you see the bone showing right there. You take the back of your knife, and you just hit it right there. You twist your knife, and you will see the claw comes out very easily. It's quick, easy, and all what it takes is a knife.
As you know, we all have a lot of little tricks in cooking. One thing is how to keep lobster light. In a restaurant, in big restaurants, they have tanks, but at home you cannot have a tank. Even in small restaurants, we don't have tanks. So how do you keep them alive? It's very easy. You take a newspaper and you put it in water. You wet your newspaper very much. Then all what you have to do, you take your live lobster, you put it in your newspaper, you wrap it in. You put it in the refrigerator, and your lobster, I guarantee you, stays alive for at least a week. That's the little trick.
You know, when you want to do a galantine or a ballotine, it's like a pâté. You bone out a bird entirely, put the mixture in it, and roll it together. It seems very difficult to bone out, remove all the bone out of that bird. But really, when you know how to do it, it's really not that complicated. Here is how we do it. We start by removing the wishbone. Lift up the skin, that wishbone is on this side. Run your knife on each side of it. Then pry it out with your thumb and your finger. Just pull it out. This is that triangle on top of it, which is really a pain in the neck when you carve. So you remove this. Next thing is cut the skin of the back. Now that chicken is being held at the carcass by the joint of the shoulder and by the joint of the hip. That's the only place where I have to cut. The joint of the shoulder is here. I can feel it. So I go like that with the knife, get into that joint. Same thing on the other side, the joint, I'm in there. Now I grab the chicken this way, pull until I see the little oyster, pull on the other side. This is the front of the chicken. I put my two fingers here, pull it down like if I'm taking his pajama. Now I'm cutting the little oyster, cracking it open. There is a sinew here out. On the other side again, I cut through that sinew and pull out. This should not take you more than about 40 seconds or so to bone out that chicken to that extent. The thing left are the two fillets. Just run your finger around this one and that one. As you can see, I don't use the knife. People use the knife munch to munch. And now I have the chicken bone out, the whole carcass is there. I have cut here and there, here and there. At the end of those 4 bones, this is what I want to do. Now to remove the bone of the leg, if you want to, just scrape it. Scrape the bone of the thigh, then cut all around the knee, if you want, here. Then you scrape again. Now you are at the end here. You don't want to cut that because it's going to shrink, so break it, remove it. Now you do the same thing with the other leg. Arrange this on top, stuff it with spinach, whatever you want. Now you're ready to roll it. Bring the skin back on top of it, this way. Cross his leg, and your chicken is bone out. All you have to do now with a string is to go around and tighten it. 1 or 2 minutes, you have the chicken completely bone out. As you see, there is nothing to it. Try it. It's really not as hard as it looks like, and you'll enjoy it.
Well, friends, that about wraps it up. The Co-Brand Corporation hopes you've found these trucs to be genuinely helpful and wants you to know that a portion of the proceeds from the sale of this tape goes to support the work of Share Our Strength, the restaurant industry's response to hunger and homelessness in America and throughout the world. If you want to know more about SOS and how you can help, call 1-800-222-1767. Thanks for being with us for this edition of Trucs of the Trade. Keep your eye out for our next edition, and meanwhile, keep on trucking.